The arena shimmered like a jewel balanced on the edge of a knife. Suspended in orbit above a churning gas giant, it wasn't so much a structure as an insult to physics. Tiers of floating balconies, gravity fields folding and unfolding like origami, and banners of living silk rippling through vacuum as if they, too, had a stake in the show. Inside, 5,000 dignitaries of 5,000 species feasted, drank, and sneered, their laughter carrying across the amphitheater in wet hisses, metallic chimes, and bass-heavy growls. Their attention was locked on the sandpit below, where the latest demonstration of mercy was about to begin. A swarm of beetles the size of house cats formed itself into a humanoid shape and spoke through a rasping, multitonal voice. Honored witnesses, the Galactic Empire welcomes you to this display of strength, wisdom, and benevolent protection. Our champion shall remind this fragile world why it is in their best interest to accept the Empire's embrace. The word embrace came out dripping with a menace, so refined it might have been bottled and sold at an exorbitant price. Above the pit, holographic projections flared to life, showing a blue planet nestled in a quiet arm of the Milky Way. Oceans glittered. Clouds curled like soft lace. Earth, the announcer intoned, home to bipeds so delicate they perish without water every 3 rotations of their planet. Creatures who break their bones falling from trees and, in an impressive feat of irony, still climb them. A ripple of condescending laughter spread through the crowd. Tentacles curled with delight. Feathers shook in amusement. A few delegates even raised glasses in mock toasts. And yet, the announcer said, the pause perfectly timed for dramatic effect, they have declined our offer of protection. Bold, or foolish, perhaps both. Another wave of laughter, louder this time. Oblivion Ambassador slapped its carapace in amusement and hissed. They probably haven't even evolved to process fear properly yet. But the laughter softened as the hologram shifted. Below, in the sandpit, a group of human women stepped forward from the gates. There were only 6 of them. No powered armor. No plasma rifles. Just matte gray fatigues and weapons that looked painfully primitive to galactic eyes. Long barrel rifles slung over their shoulders, knives strapped to their thighs, and a calmness in their gait that bordered on eerie. Observe, the announcer purred. Earth's last attempt at dignity. Mira Stone and her companions, each one unarmored, unaugmented, and unequipped for survival. This will be quick. Mira stood at the head of the group, her boots crunching softly in the sand as she scanned the amphitheater with sharp, unflinching eyes. The crowd leaned forward. She was not tall. She was not armored. She carried no banner, no insignia. But something in her stillness unsettled a few of the more experienced warriors in the stands, though they couldn't have said why. The opposing gates groaned open. From them emerged a nightmare forged in chitin and acid. General Vrox was massive even by insectoid standards, his plated body glinting with bioluminescent veins. Acid sacs swelled visibly in his thorax as he raised his claws to the crowd and bellowed, "I accept this farce of a challenge." The arena shook with cheers. Some spectators began chanting his name. Others opened live betting markets, hollow numbers flashing like lightning overhead. Vrox, 1, 0.01. Human females, 1, 12,500. Would anyone like to place a wager on the underdogs? The announcer asked, voice dripping with mockery. No one did. Mira watched Vrox's approach in silence. Her squad fanned out in a loose formation, rifles low. Are they smiling? One alien dignitary asked in confusion. Mira wasn't smiling. Not quite. The expression was sharper than that, like the faint edge of a blade catching light. Vrox reared up and slammed his claws into the sand, sending tremors radiating outward. Pathetic, he roared, his translator implant struggling to keep up with the guttural syllables. I will crush your bones and sing your death rites in my mother's tongue. Mira tilted her head slightly, adjusting the strap on her rifle. You're welcome to try, she said evenly. The crowd erupted in cruel laughter, the sound rolling through the arena like a wave. Above, the announcer's voice cut through the din. Let the demonstration begin. May this remind all lesser species of the Empire's mercy. A deep hum vibrated the air as the klaxon sounded. Vrox lunged forward in a blur of acid spray and gnashing mandibles. The human squad did not flinch. Myra's internal voice was calm, precise. 5,000 claws, 10,000 teeth, one predictable pattern. Her finger brushed the rifle's trigger as her teen's formation tightened like a noose. "Let's teach them about Earth's version of protection," she murmured. The first gunshot cracked like thunder, and, for the briefest moment, the laughter died. The air in the prep chamber hummed with low, artificial gravity fluctuations that made it feel like standing inside a predator's throat. Mira Stone sat on the edge of a metal bench, her rifle resting across her knees like an old friend. The walls were pristine white, lined with faintly glowing alien script that pulsed in time with the arena's heartbeat. Somewhere beyond reinforced doors, thousands of alien voices screamed for her blood. She flexed her hands and exhaled slowly. Calm, measured, always. Combatant Stone chirped a hovering sphere the size of a melon, its voice as cloying as syrup. "Your vitals indicate high stress. Shall I administer a sedative? It's standard protocol for species with emotional volatility." Mira raised an eyebrow, but didn't look up from the weapon she was polishing. "Do I look like I need a sedative?" The drone paused, scanning her steady pulse and flatline neural patterns. It hesitated, an unusual trait for machines. "You appear deceptively calm for a mammal about to engage General Rox." "That's because I am." "Fascinating." The drone buzzed closer, optics whirring. "Statistical models place your survival odds at less than 0.008%. In previous engagements, humans displayed excessive panic responses, followed by death. I've seen the replays." Mira clicked a cartridge into place with a soft metallic snap. "This time's different." The drone hummed, unconvinced. "Different how?" "I know how to wait." A chittering sound beyond the glass made her glance up. Across the divide, in his own prep zone, Rox was sharpening his claws on the wall. Sparks danced as chitin scraped alloy. The insectoid giant loomed so large he seemed to fill the space entirely, his mandibles clicking in an obscene rhythm that matched the crowd's distant chant. "Rox! Rox! Rox!" Mira watched his movements, not the big, showy gestures meant to intimidate, but the tiny details. The way his left forelimb didn't flex quite as smoothly, the brief hitch in his stride. Scar tissue, maybe. Old injury. The kind of flaw you only spotted if you weren't too busy wetting yourself in fear. "He's bigger than our dropship," muttered Elise Tran, her second in command, from where she was checking the sights on her own rifle. "Bigger doesn't mean smarter," Mira replied. "It does mean faster. Stronger. Better acid glands." Elise gave a sharp, humorless smile. "We're outclassed 6 ways to Sunday." "Not outthought," Mira said. "Do you ever get tired of being cryptic?" "Not yet." On the massive hollow screens overhead, odds were still shifting like nervous animals. Rox's numbers were absurd now. Better's confident he'd crushed the entire squad in under 2 minutes. Myra's name, meanwhile, floated in tiny red font next to laughable multipliers. "Humans, ideal for comedy, poor for combat," one alien commentator said over the feed. The mocking laughter from the stands was loud enough to rattle the walls. Vendors were already hawking commemorative trinkets. Mammal skull goblets, buy one, spill blood for free. Myra's mouth twitched. Not a smile, not quite. "Your people are fascinating," said a voice, smooth and cold. She turned to see Oblivion Observer pressed against a glass partition, his translucent carapace shimmering with faint bioluminescence. "I've studied humans extensively. You have no claws, no armor, no psionic ability. And yet here you are, still convinced survival is possible. It's almost charming." "Almost?" Mira asked dryly. The Oblivion's mandibles parted in what passed for amusement. "There's an elegance in extinction. Perhaps you'll provide a memorable finale." She didn't bother responding. Words weren't going to change what came next. The klaxon began its deep, resonant hum. Final call to combat. Rock stopped sharpening his claws and turned toward her prep chamber, his massive frame casting a shadow across the sand as the doors began to rise. His voice boomed through the arena's translator grid. "Fear me, little ones. I will split your flesh and boil your bones." Elise's fingers twitched nervously on her rifle stock. Myra's didn't. "Orders?" Elise asked. "Same as before." Mira said calmly, standing and slinging her rifle over her shoulder. Witches. Breathe. Watch. Shoot. Not necessarily in that order. Exactly. The final lock disengaged with a hiss. As the gate slid open and light flooded the chamber, Mira whispered to herself, so softly not even Elise could hear, "Let's see if giants bleed." And then she stepped out onto the sand, where a galaxy waited to laugh, or to burn. The sand shifted under Myra's boots as she stepped into the open, heat rising in waves from the arena floor. Overhead, banners of alien silk fluttered in manufactured wind, their iridescent threads catching the harsh lights. The air smelled of scorched metal, bitter pheromones, and something faintly sweet, like overripe fruit left too long in the sun. Across the battlefield, Vrox's claws gouged deep trenches into the sand as he advanced. Each step sent tiny tremors radiating outward. His mandibles clicked in a rhythm that made Mira think of a metronome, steady, inevitable, but not invincible. Fragile creatures. His voice boomed across the arena, translated for 1,000 hungry ears. You will not die well, but you will die fast. Mira lifted her rifle, the matte black barrel catching none of the light. Her visor displayed data streams in a calm, unhurried font. Wind negligible. Gravity stable for 0.7 seconds. Estimated charge time irrelevant. Fragile doesn't mean harmless, she murmured. The klaxon blared. Vrox lunged forward with startling speed, his bulk defying physics as acid glands swelled and hissed. Green droplets sprayed across the sand, sizzling as they ate into the surface. "Scatter," Mira said, her voice low but sharp. Her team moved instantly, breaking formation in precise arcs. Elise dove left, her boots skidding against the loose surface, while Chin vaulted onto a low rise to gain elevation. The rest fanned out, rifles raised, eyes fixed on the chitin-clad juggernaut barreling toward them. Plasma bolts shrieked from Vrox's secondary limbs, burning streaks of blue across the air. Mira slid sideways just as one exploded inches from where she'd stood, the force throwing her against the sand. "Status," she barked. "Alive," Elise panted. "For now." "Keep it that way." Mira rolled onto her stomach and took aim, her reticle locking onto Vrox's left shoulder joint, the one that had flexed stiffly in the prep chamber. The first shot cracked through the arena like lightning. It struck with a flash of sparks, glancing off the carapace but leaving a shallow dent. The crowd erupted in derisive laughter. "You bite like flies," Vrox snarled. He swept one massive claw through the sand, nearly catching Tran as she rolled clear. "I will end you slowly." His shoulder plating thinner than the rest, Mira said into comms. "Focus fire there. Watch his feints. He's using his size to disguise lag on the left." Her squad answered with a volley of precision shots, each round ricocheting against a plated armor with sharp, metallic pings. Vrox staggered, only slightly, but enough for Mira to see the cracked spiderwebbing from their combined efforts. "Pathetic mammals," he roared. "Do you think bullets can pierce a Kravox warlord?" "Not bullets," Mira muttered, "but math can." She shifted her stance, exhaled, and waited. The entire arena seemed to constrict around her heartbeat. Vrox charged again, mandibles snapping. Acid hissed through the air, and one drop seared the edge of Chen's armor. He screamed, but stayed upright, his rifle steady. "On my mark," Mira said. Her visor displayed Vrox's movements in real time, calculating vectors and velocities. Every tremor, every muscle twitch, fed into her neural implants like notes in a symphony. 3. Vrox raised his claws for a killing blow. 2. The crowd's roar blurred into white noise. 1. Her fingers squeezed the trigger. The round sailed straight and unerring, slipping between the plates of Vrox's left shoulder joint and embedding deep in the soft tissue beneath. Vrox froze mid-strike. A strangled screech burst from his mandibles. He stumbled, claws flailing wildly as his massive frame wavered like a collapsing tower. Mira didn't hesitate. "Elise, finish it." A second shot rang out, this one slicing through Vrox's exposed neck seam. Green ichor sprayed across the sand. The warlord fell. The arena went silent. For a long moment, there was no sound but the faint hiss of Vrox's acid glands venting harmlessly into the air. Then came the pandemonium. Screams of disbelief erupted from the stands. Alien nobles thrashed in their seats, their delicate frills and feathers trembling. Mira lowered her rifle and brushed the sand from her gloves with slow precision. "Squad status?" she asked. "Alive," Elise said. "Mostly." "Good enough. Regroup." On the upper tiers, a dignitary shrieked. "This violates natural law. No mammal could." "Clearly," said the human ambassador, sipping their drink with infuriating calm, "you've underestimated mammals." As Myra's team fell in around her, she glanced up at the silent betting screens. Her odds, once laughable, now blinked in stunned red. Human victory. 1-1. She touched the comms unit on her collar, her voice carrying across the whole arena. "You offered protect us," she said, "but you'll need protection from us now." And then she turned her back on Vrox's twitching corpse and walked toward the exit gates. The laughter that filled the arena hours earlier had curdled into something else entirely. Fear. The arena was still trembling, long after Mira and her squad disappeared through the gates. Above the sandpit, rows of alien dignitaries sat frozen in disbelief, their luminous eyes locked on the crater where General Vrox had fallen. His body, what was left of it, was already being swarmed by maintenance drones, each one careful not to corrode its own plating on the acidic ichor spilling out his thorax. No one spoke at first. The betting screen still flickered overhead, unable to process what had happened. Odds had collapsed in a cascade of red numbers, entire planetary economies crumbling as wagers evaporated like water on a neutron star. Somewhere in the stands, a Florag noble convulsed so violently in outrage that it split into 3 smaller Florags on the spot. "She cheated," hissed Oblivion Ambassador, his voice high and tight. His carapace pulsed with frantic color as he slammed his claws on the diplomatic bench. There is no other explanation. No mammal strikes down a Kravox warlord. "She didn't cheat," said the human ambassador from their VIP seat. Their tone was maddeningly calm, almost bored, as they swirled a faintly glowing drink in its glass. She calculated, watched, waited, found the pattern, took the shot. Honestly, you should respect the efficiency. Across the amphitheater, murmurs rose like a tide as the Empire's representatives clutched at words that refused to come. For centuries, the Protection Accord had functioned like a machine. Offer sanctuary to a fragile world, demonstrate overwhelming power, and crush any resistance. It wasn't supposed to fail. And yet here lay Vrox, unmoving. In the Imperial command box, a hologram of the Emperor flickered erratically as underlings scrambled to contain the narrative. "Send reinforcements to Earth," one hissed. "Cancel the next trial," another said. "Spin it as an act of mercy. Say we allowed them a symbolic victory." The Emperor's voice, smooth and cold, cut through the chaos. "No, this requires recalibration." On the arena floor, Myra's squad walked in tight formation toward the hangar, boots crunching over sand and blood. None of them spoke until the heavy doors closed behind them, sealing off the roaring crowd. "Alive," Elise said finally, letting out a breath that shook slightly. "Somehow." "Mostly," Chin muttered, limping slightly as he propped his rifle against the wall. Mira didn't respond. She was seated on a crate, disassembling her weapon with the same steady hands that had pulled the trigger. Green ichor flecked her gloves, and she rubbed at it absently with a rag. "Orders?" Elise asked after a moment. "Stand down," Mira said. "For now." Beyond the hangar, ships came and went in silent streams of light. The squad's transport waited at the far end, its engines purring softly as though eager to leave. "You know what's coming, don't you?" Elise asked in a low voice. "They'll regroup," Mira said. "They'll send something bigger, meaner. They'll rewrite the rules until we're back to being prey again." "You sound almost calm about it." "Calm doesn't mean safe," Mira said. A soft ping interrupted them. Myra's visor display lit up with a transmission. Assignment accepted. Coordinates uploaded. Elise raised an eyebrow. "New mission?" Mira stood, slinging her rifle over her shoulder with the same casual precision that had unnerved an entire empire. "Same mission," she said quietly. "Different target." As the squad filed onto the ship, Mira paused at the ramp and glanced back at the sealed arena doors. From within came muffled sounds, angry hisses, panic cries, the furious thrum of bureaucrats realizing their empire wasn't invincible after all. Funny thing about fragility, Mira murmured to herself. It cuts deep when it breaks. The hatch closed with a hiss, and the ship lifted smoothly off the deck. Stars unfurled like cold fire in the viewport as the vessel angled away from the station and into open space. Behind them, the Galactic Empire scrambled to control the narrative. Ahead, the void waited, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy wondered what would happen if humans decided not to stop.